Alright guys, welcome back. Oops. Alright, today on the show, we're going to be looking at casing, cooling setup, memory, power supply units, and motherboards. So, let's start off first in casing. Memory tab. Okay, casing, we have two choices. We have mid-tower or we have full tower. And it really doesn't matter what brand you buy, as long as it's a decent, reliable brand. I myself prefer thermal tape, and this is the case I use, and it is a mid-tower. I have plenty of room for everything. It has, you can put 2 fans intake, 1 fan exhaust, and there's 2 in the side for intake or exhaust, whatever your preference. The reason I like this particular style of casing is the front panels. I mean, I can take what it is there's a bunch of slots in the front, as you can see. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you can use them for whatever you want. You can put disk drives, you can pull them out, put fans in there. Like, see, there's a fan right there. Memory card readers, you can, whatever your heart's desire, basically. And that's what I personally like about this style of casing. Also, something to note, it has a that piece, that plastic piece there, it will sit over your processor cooler, and it will help direct airflow from out of the case. Like if you have a standard processor cooler, or maybe an aftermarket that's designed to look like a standard, you know, the little block, and then it has a small fan blowing in. What this will do is, instead of using the air inside of the case, it will pull air from outside of the case onto the processor. And what that helps is, if we have an intake fan here and it blows through our system and out our exhaust, if the intake is sucked in by the processor and then sucked out by the exhaust, it slows down the airflow. But if the processor has its own dedicated air duct where it can pull its own air, then the intake is not being modified by the processor, so it's a direct flow, and it'll keep your motherboard, like if you have a video card, it'll keep that colder. If you have a high-end sound card, Northbridge, things like that. So basically, we're looking at what is more worth it, full tower or mid tower, and really this is only preference. This is the full tower. It's bigger. It's a lot bigger. See, we have 2. Oops. If you look here, this is also Thermaltech design. If you look here on the full tower, look at that, 2 air duct holes. But I honestly don't know what the second's for. That's where the processor should sit. So I honestly don't know. I guess you don't really sit it on the processor, you just sit it near it, and the dual design will pull twice as much air in, but I'm not really sure why there's 2 there. I guess you could take one off. But this is much bigger. We have, see, if you see, the power supply will sit in sideways, and there is another, like an 80mm fan, or possibly a 90 for here. And see, we can put hard drives here, and we have another hard drive. We have a cage here. I guess so you could have up to 2 cages. I guess it's just sitting there. And this full towers will fit extended ATX boards for your AMD FX, which is 2 dual core processors on the same board, and your dual Intel setup, your dual I think it's 771 LGA for your dual extreme quad cores. So what I would recommend is, if you're going to build a really extreme high-end case, go full tower. If you're looking to buy a nice like mid-range media box, or even a nice gaming PC with like a single card solution for gaming, I would go to mid-tower, because I use a quad core and a 4870, 1 hard drive, 1 DVD burner. I've got a nice big 120mm CPU cooler in there. and everything fits really good, really nice. I have plenty of room to put cables. I can put up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not counting the CPU cooler. I can put 520 millimeter fans in this thing. Right now I have 4. But yeah, I would go with a mid tower. Try not spending over $100 for a mid tower. Full tower, the price range is everywhere. I'd stay below 170 myself. So there's my advice on getting a case. Also, one thing to make sure, some cases have power supplies on the top or bottom. Now, the thing I found is that when installing a power supply from the bottom and the wires going up, it has a lot more drag on the ports. Like, you have the whole weight of them wires pulling down, as where before, when they were up, there isn't as much weight like on the actual jack itself, because all that strain and stress is actually off the connection to the power supply, which is designed to handle the wire weight. But say the 1624 pin connector on the motherboard, over time that might cause damage. Or let's see, the PCI 6 or 8 on the graphics card, pulling down on that, I just wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend getting the power supply on top. That's how cases have been designed forever. It's worked great. I'm not dishing on bottom. I'm just saying make sure the wires aren't pulling too hard on said hardware. So let's move on to cooling. So this is your fan setup. What I recommend you should do. Now, as for water cooling versus fan cooling, unless, like I said, unless you're building an extreme high-end system, I would stay away from water cooling. It's very efficient. It is very, very expensive. You're looking at $400-500. Okay, it's for some nice water cooling systems. Also, you gotta know what you're doing. I'm not saying you can't learn. I'm just saying don't go into this not doing anything about doing it, because if you didn't know, you have to test a water cooling system for at least 24 hours running off. Don't put it on any of the components. You lock out all the ports and you just let it run to check for hose leaks, to check your connections are good, to make sure your clamps are on tight enough, to make sure the reservoirs is a good reservoir. It's not going to leak. There's no cracks anywhere. So there's a lot of work into this. There really is. It's not just throw it in there and slap it on. There's more to it. Also, if you get a leak, and it could be as simple as it just came off over time, you're gonna lose a lot of hardware. If that's the processor connection and it leaks, that's gonna drip down, slap the front side bus, the graphics cards, sound cards, everything, and that's just gonna fry it. Now, there are non-conductive liquids you could use. You have to buy algae eater to put in your system, but like I said, unless you got an extreme system, I'd stay away from water cooling until you learn how to do it. Buy a media box, play around with it like that, but don't blow your $1,000-2,000 gaming system on water cooling